Hey again, everybody. I'm Rob Coble. I'm the career success coach here at Yellowtail Tech, and I'm with one of our rock star alumni, George Sikalos. George, how's it going, man?
Great, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No, dude, you have one of the more interesting stories, and I know we don't have a ton of time, but I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit about your background, man, because you've done a lot.
Yeah. I don't know how far back you want me to go, man.
Well, musician, a teacher, really no tech experience though prior to coming to us, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I a long time ago, I was in a touring rock band. And then that was just for a couple of years. And then I went back to school, probably like in my mid-20s. And I became a school teacher, and I taught for 15 years. I taught elementary school, all the subjects, and then the last 6 years of my teaching career were language arts, middle school language arts. So I got to a point where I always had a passion for tech, and I wanted to future-proof my career. I just kind of looked at where the world's going and realized that, yeah, I could teach another 20, 30 years and retire, but the money I'm making wasn't great. And there was, things are changing the school system. And I just thought it was just the right time to make a career change, a life change, really. So I went back to school, and rest is history.
Yeah. Well, so, you had a lot of options. Why did you choose Yellowtail?
Well, honestly, I first looked into like cybersecurity, right? And so I was looking at various boot camps for cybersecurity. But then I realized that at the foundation of anything, whether it be cybersecurity, DevOps, whatever your passion lies, it's Linux at the end of the day. If you can become really good at Linux and proficient at Linux, and then you can go somewhere. So I knew that my career path had to have a strong, solid foundation, and it needed to be in Linux. And that's just the way I thought about things. So Yellowtail was one of the only schools that I found that was offering a Linux for Jobs program, where specifically teaching you to be a systems administrator in Linux. And I just thought, well, that's a good place to ground myself and become an expert. And then from there, really see what my true IT passion is, because I'm still trying to figure that out. Sure. So Yellowtail offered the program that would give me a solid foundation.
That's interesting to hear you say that, because, a lot of people right now are kind of in that freak out mode because there's been tech layoffs and stuff like that. The majority of which come from big tech, Google and Twitter and stuff like that. But with Linux, like you said, it's the foundation that takes you to all these different areas and everything. And yeah, how are you going to know until you get in there and start playing around with it what your true passion is going to be in the end, So going through the program and everything, do you feel, you went through the apprenticeship, you did the mock interviews and everything. When you went out and started interviewing, did you feel prepared? Did you feel like, yeah, I got this?
Yeah, for the most part, yes. I mean, definitely, there were moments where I was throwing curveballs that maybe I didn't see coming, even from my experience at Yellowtail. Not to say that Yellowtail didn't prepare me well for the position and learning Linux, which they did, but I think it at least gave me enough knowledge and grounding to handle what came at me. So in that aspect, yeah, I felt prepared. I will say for myself and anybody that's going through this program or any program in tech, you're going to have to self-study. I mean, there's no way around it. Yellowtail will give you a lot and as much as they can, but if you want to be well-rounded and prepare for multiple interviews with different job titles and the different questions that are going to get thrown your way for different needs, you have to do a little bit more. You have to, prepare yourself at the end of the day. But yeah, Yellowtail did what it had to do and gave me what I needed to get me on track and to point me in the right direction.
Yeah, and there's, nobody's going to try and hide the fact that, it's a major responsibility on your end too, to get out and do that self-study and work with your cohort and all of that kind of stuff. You're a busy man. You obviously had to have some kind of plan when you started here to find that time between work and family. You're a new dad again and all of that. So tell us about that. What advice do you have for people for good study habits and stuff like that?
Sure. Well, the first thing is your decision has to be solid. Like, you have to know why you're doing this. For me, it was to change the course of mine and my family's life. So by being happier in my job, making more money, learning a new skill set, I knew that this would change my life in a positive way. So I think the first thing is you have to have buy-in. You have to, the people that you live with, you have to say, look, this new venture I'm about to embark upon is going to require this much time from me on these days. Do you have my back? And so I did that. I got that first piece out of the way. Like, this is the journey I'm going to be on for about a year. It's because I'm trying to change the trajectory of our life, get the buy-in, and then from there, look at the schedule for the school and carve out those days. I would say that if you have a job or something like that, you have to adjust, if you can, to not only make the live classes, but then there's also study time. So you have to think about it. What do I have to do? For me, I woke up early and stayed up late. Like, I always say there's 24 hours in the day. Yes, sleep's important, but it's not important for 1 year. You can sacrifice that, And so I would do things like, the kids would go to bed 8, 9 o'clock at night. So then I would start studying from like 9 till midnight. And, my wife's going to bed at some point in those hours. And it was discussed up front, like, I need this study time, lock myself away.
You're kind of like, hey, honey, see you in a year.
Yeah, exactly. And I also, but on top of that, I also carved out time for my family. So there were certain weekends where I said, I'm not even going to look at Linux. So they don't want to look at it or hear about it. Let's focus on ourselves. So really, you got to be, so number one, get the buy-in. Number two, build the schedule. Like, know when you have to study, how much time you have to put in, and block it out. And the way you stay motivated through that is always going back to your why. Like, why am I even doing this?
Yeah.
This is insane, But other than that, in terms of other study habits, you have to be consistent. Like, you have, even if you're like, there were days where, even though Friday night was a study night for me, I didn't want to see a command line, but I did it, even if it was for 5 minutes. Like, I just got on and typed some simple commands just to do it and build the habit. So that consistency would be the third part, because the success is not going to come right away. It will come if you consistently go at it. Yeah, discipline, man. It's like with anything, but I like that you bring up the why. That's something that Juby, our founder, talks about a lot, and he asks everybody in the orientation, what is your why? And plaster it on your monitor or do whatever you have to do to keep reminding yourself of why you're doing it. Mm-hmm.
We're not going to say it's not going to be easy, or it's going to be easy, because you're going to have to put in the work, especially when you get towards the apprenticeship. And tell me about your experience with the apprenticeship, because I know that that's a lot of information coming at you at once.
It is. It gives you a taste of the real world. So it does prepare you in that. There are a couple of things that happen in the apprenticeship. Number one, you're not left alone. You do have support, but you're asked to go at it alone at first. You get a scenario, you get a situation, a problem, and then it really forces you. It's a pressure test, essentially, which is a good thing, because in the real world, that's what it is. It's constantly being pressure tested, and then reaching out if you need to. So the internship was challenging, but good preparation for the real world. It teaches you how to communicate with other people in tech. When there's an issue, there's certain things you have to find first and present before reaching out to people, as opposed to like coming across a stumbling block and then reaching out right away. Well, what did you do first? Like, how did you dig?
Right.
And so the apprenticeship definitely prepared me in that way. So all the education prior to that and the certification prep, that got me the knowledge, the base knowledge, but the the apprenticeship gave me that like real world application of it, and what it's really like to be out there and pressure test.
Are you finding that you're doing, one thing I didn't ask, tell me your title now and your company.
Sure. I am a systems engineer for a company called Syniverse, which is a mobile telecommunications company.
Okay.
And essentially I work in the operations department, and I'm responsible for maintaining the systems. Basically, when someone makes a phone call or a text message from one carrier to another, my company ensures that message gets from, like, say T-Mobile to Verizon or whatever. And so a lot of the times we have multiple servers that house those databases of information, like telephone numbers, and it's, things go wrong. It's their machines, and so my job is to go in there and make sure they operate fully. That's a high level overview, but I'm working on a Linux command line, like all the servers
Gotcha.
are Linux based, and so
Yeah.
having knowledge of, and they're all Red Hat, so. And most companies are, like everything that I'm seeing, and some Ubuntu and stuff like that, but a lot of RHEL servers out there that you have to know how to navigate.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So question I always love asking everybody, has your financial status improved since you took this job?
Yeah, but it's true what they say, the more you make, the more you spend, so be careful, beware. I feel the same as I did when I was teaching, but I do make more money. Yeah, so.
Well, yeah, now we got more things too, so.
Well, what it's really done, the major benefit of the financial gain is that it's allowed, like, my wife to stay home with the baby. Before,
nice.
Before that wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
I'd have been like, get to work. The baby's 2 days old, get to work. But so that's the way you have to look at things. I knew well before that I was planning an additional family member. That was part of the motivation, part of my why, is like, okay, we're having another child, so I've got to make more money. There's no ifs, ands, ors about it, so.
Yeah, right. So for those that are thinking about jumping into tech, and like I mentioned earlier, people are kind of a little reluctant right now to pull the trigger because they hear these horror stories of layoffs without really understanding what that means and the big picture of things. So I want to get your opinion on any advice that you would have for those that are thinking about a career in tech, and specifically in Linux or cloud-based engineering.
Sure. First of all, let's address layoffs. That's a real thing. It's not as rampant as some people might think, or it should scare you out of doing it, but it does happen. I mean, there are safer careers, but the question you have to ask yourself is, are you happy in that career, and are you making enough money? My job as a teacher was a safer career. Like, I'm not going to get laid off yet anyway, but until computers take over, right? But I did know that the risk reward benefit outweighed staying in that career. So that's I would say that number one, if that's like a roadblock for someone, really think about, you're probably going to double your salary, maybe. And if you do a good job, could you face layoff? Sure, it could happen. Life's unpredictable, but and I've seen one happen, but I'm still employed. So, it's just a matter of just really thinking about the risk reward and going for it. Now, the other thing I would say is, once you can get past that and not fear it as much, because there's always a job waiting for you anyway if that happens somewhere else, right? But if that, the thing you have to think about is, if you're thinking about career in tech, is you have to be a lifelong learner. Like, you have to, that the learning doesn't stop after your Yellowtail course. You have to keep going, whether that's self-study, the company provides you material to learn what they do, you're gonna be a learner. So if, I would say, if you like to learn and you like to be challenged, and you don't mind banging your head against the table once in a while because you can't figure something out, then it's a good career, and so far it's treated me well.